And yeah, still a few people coming in, but we'll I think we'll kick off now with, why don't we go and play a short video about the Dominican Republic just to get us in the mood and see what we're going to be hearing all about tonight from Monty.
There is a place where true wilderness is only ever a step away. And a single moment can last a lifetime. There is a place called the Dominican Republic.
Right, welcome everybody. Welcome. And yeah, apologies if for some of you that video was a little bit jerky. We found on the test here that it perhaps doesn't work quite as well on Zoom tonight as we hoped. Yeah, somebody just commented in the chat that the video is a little bit choppy. We apologise if it is choppy at all for you. But what we will be doing is we'll be addressing that later on at the end, and tomorrow we will be sending a link round to you all so that you can see the videos again and without them being so jerky. So let's hope that works a bit better. Obviously it will vary. Lovely to see so many of you here from around the world as well. We've got people here from, well, Simmons, yeah, Manchester, very exciting, and from Vancouver Island. So yeah, from all over the country and also from overseas. That's really exciting. So I'm Lynn Hughes and I'm the founder and editor of Wanderlust, and terrific to have you joining us here this evening. Now, I've got a confession to make. I've never been to the Dominican Republic, and that is appalling. I've actually wanted to go for years, and I've been really intrigued because I've heard that it has got so much. And so when we heard that Monty Halls had been, we knew that we had to sort something out for this evening. But what we're going to do is we were intrigued to know whether any of you have been yourselves to the Dominican Republic. It's always good to know. So we'll put up a quick poll. So can you just let us know how many of you have been to the Dominican Republic? Have you actually been there or not? Let's have a look. Oh, it's always really exciting watching the poll results come in. I'm down as the thinking about it because I know I do want to go. So, okay, 15% of people have been, and then that means that, yeah, so, but the majority, 85% haven't. But I'm sure by the end of the evening, we're all going to want to either go or go again. That's just really good to know. Terrific, thank you. Right, well, I think without further ado, I need to introduce our special guest speaker tonight. So I know you all know who Monty Halls is, and he's such a familiar face now on television. And of course, if we look at his background, he's a former Royal Marines officer, and he worked for Nelson Mandela. Did you know that? During the peace process in the early 90s. And he left the forces, though, to pursue a career in expeditions, travel journalism, and marine biology. And since then, of course, he's presented numerous multi-award-winning documentaries, and he's launched his own production company and become a renowned speaker. He's a global ambassador for the Durrell Wildlife and Conservation Trust. He's president of the Galapagos Conservation Trust and a Help for Heroes patron. And he supports, of course, numerous conservation organisations and service charities. But he's best known for the various highly popular BBC series like A Great Escapes, where he lived on the west coast of Scotland and Ireland with his dog Reuben. Oh. Although I was, Monty, I was amazed that you got that beautiful weather all the time, like the Irish one. It just looked like, well, it looked like you were in Dominican Republic. It looked so sunny and beautiful.
Get done false advertising. Always
Yeah.
sunny in Scotland and Ireland. Always sunny in Scotland and Ireland.
Yeah, always silly. Yeah, I went to Ireland. I think it was the year after you, and you'd made a big impact. Everybody was talking about you, but I did say, "How come the weather isn't the same as it was for Monty?"
Yes.
But yeah, there you go. Anyway, but yeah, so Monty obviously has become a very familiar face on television, and really, really interesting series. He's also written 11 books and a regular contributor to magazines and newspapers. But tonight, obviously, he's going to talk to us about the Dominican Republic, and I'm as intrigued as you all are on what he thinks of it and what he found there. So, Monty, can you take it away, please?
I can, and hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you know, I don't know about you, wherever you are, the rain is drumming on the windows outside, and I can think of no finer evening that to go to a beautiful Caribbean island like the Dominican Republic. And oddly enough, this was the final trip just before lockdown. I did this trip in January. And then got back, and obviously very shortly afterwards, lockdown happened. So it seems another world, and very, very fond memories of this trip indeed. And I went as a punter. I went as a tourist. And Sabrina, who represents Dominican Republic, had been chatting to me for ages, years. We saw each other at dive shows. She's always like, "You've got to come. You've got to come." And we finally got an opportunity to go. And I went as a tourist, but I went as a filmmaker as well. And the idea was that we wanted to tell the multifaceted story of the Dominican Republic. And that's one of the reasons I'm starting the talk with this image, because we tend to get a slightly cliched image of a beautiful Caribbean island. That's invariably got a palm tree involved. There's invariably a chap in shorts involved. There's invariably like crystal clear water, sugar white sand, you know, the sun, looking philosophically into the middle distance down a long sweep of beach. Now, the Dominican Republic has got all of that, but it's got so much more than that. And that's the story we really wanted to tell. We wanted to explore the green interior, the heart of the island. And we also wanted to explore the amazing culture and heritage of the Dominican Republic. So for that reason, we made 3 films, and we're going to show you these films over the course of the talk. One film was Earth, which was really about the heritage, the history, the culture, the landscapes of Dominican Republic. Another one was Air, which is all about things like the bird life and you know, the extraordinary altitude of the island as well. It's got the highest mountain in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic. And the last one was Water, because one of the reasons the Dominican Republic has truly global renown is it has an amazing migration every year of humpback whales. It's become one of the best spots in the world to see humpback whales. So what I'm going to do is tell you the little story behind each film, really, because that was our journey around the Dominican Republic. So without further ado, let's push on. So the location of the Dominican Republic is very, very significant. So you can see there, it's obviously, you can see Cuba, just to the east of Cuba there, we've got that large island, Hispaniola. It's the whole island. So you've got Haiti to the west there, and you've got Dominican Republic to the right, to the east. Now, the positioning is very, very significant, because this was really the first point of landfall for anything coming from Europe. So this was really the birth of the New World. In 1492, Columbus landed in the New World, as it were. And what that means is Dominican Republic became a gateway to the New World. And in the Americas, the Dominican Republic, a lot of the history are the firsts for the Americas. The first university, the first barracks, the first paved road, the first hospital. It's all in Dominican Republic. And also what you've got is a really eclectic mix of races there. There's real pride in this rainbow heritage. Any island that becomes a gateway to a whole continent is going to have a real mixture of cultures, because over many, many hundreds of years, centuries, you've had people passing through the island, some people settling, it's become a center for trade, and you always end up with a really, really rich ecosystem of people within the islands and within the island. And that's what we found. That was something that really predominated when we visited. The other thing to look at, of course, is you can see there's a kind of ridge in the Atlantic there that heads off to the north. And that's a migratory route. It's a highway for humpback whales. And the bulk of the population of Atlantic humpback whales ends up in the Dominican Republic. And they end up there to calve and to look after the calves, to mate and to calve, basically. So the people from Dominican Republic say, every humpback whale from in the Atlantic, they all come from the Dominican, but they're all natives of the Dominican Republic. So here's a closer look at the island. Now, an important thing to point out about the island, it's 48,000 square kilometers, this island. It's got 1,600 kilometers of coastline, and 10 million people live here. So I was there for about 10 days, 12 days or so, and we charged around as best we could and tried to take it in. But obviously, there's a huge array of things to do within the island that we didn't really touch on. We didn't get a chance to do. So that's the reason Sabrina is there in the bottom of the screen. She's there to keep me honest, partly because my pronunciation is going to be terrible of every single place we visited, but also there's going to be attractions here that we didn't visit. We didn't get a chance to visit. So this is just really one man's experience within the islands. But what you're looking at there is it's a substantial landmass with a bit of altitude to it. And altitude is very significant. So the highest mountain in the Caribbean, it's called Pico Duarte. I hope I got the pronunciation right there, Sabrina. It's 3 kilometers up in the sky. It's 3,000 meters high. Whenever you get altitude, you get lots of different ecosystems. So forget about the beach, forget about the white sand, turn around, get your back to the sea and walk inland. Walk into the green, crackling interior of the Dominican Republic. And you're entering a really unique ecosystem. 30% of species here are endemic to the Dominican Republic. You don't find them anywhere else. You're looking at cloud forest. You're looking at a really beautiful tropical rainforest that's got altitude to it. So there's 300 species of orchid, there's 6,000 species of plant, there's 7,000 species of animal here. So it's a really rich ecosystem, and that altitude is one of the reasons why. So we're very, very excited to visit, but one of the most important places to visit before you head off to the coast and before you head into the interior is the capital city, which is Santo Domingo. And one of the reasons is it is a truly ancient city. So 1492, obviously Columbus sailed the ocean blue and landed in this part of the world, but the city itself wasn't established until 1496. But of course, that still gives it real antiquity. And the image you can see here, this is the walled city. This is the ancient city here. Right next to it, you can see to the east there is a river, and that's the Ozama River. Now, a lot of great cities around the world are established next to rivers on coasts. And the reason is that was a highway into the heart of the island. It was a way of trade, and it was a way of getting in and exploration within the islands. And, nowadays we're all very, very keenly aware with the whole sort of Black Lives Matter movement and a real examination of colonial past, that it has to be stated, of course, that there was a huge indigenous population here as well before the New World visited, the New World became established. But essentially, this was the start of the New World in the Americas. And as I said, that great antiquity within the old city here, the Zona Colonia, as it's known, you really feel it when you go in there. Now, because of the location of the Dominican Republic and because of its strategic significance as a gateway into this part of the world, there's been many tussles for this island, and there's been many claims of ownership of the island, as it were. So just to give you a rough timescale here, so 1496 it was established, 1502 it was wiped out by a hurricane, 1586 Francis Drake came over and tried to have a go at it, in 1655 Oliver Cromwell came over, in 1795 the French took it over, in 1808 the Spanish took it over, in 1822 Haiti invaded, In 1844, it declared independence. In 1861, Spain took it over again. And in 1865, it became a republic. And even the US in the early part of the 20th century took it over as well. But now it's a very proud, independent country with this wonderful rainbow heritage, with this wonderful mixture of races there. But I must say, the one thing that is the common factor with all these races that have all mixed in the Dominican Republic is the smile. It's one of the smiliest places I've ever visited. And also, everyone's very proud of the fact that they are a true rainbow nation. They have all mixed so well to create this true multicultural society there. Now, when you go to Santo Domingo, you go to Zona Colonia there, that classic sort of mixture of European heritage, of American heritage, of a European architecture is really plain to see, and it's really striking. You get this wonderful thing of these tall buildings and these narrow, cool streets and plazas, and you feel the antiquity kind of seeping out of the walls, and it doesn't feel like a classic Caribbean experience, strangely enough. It feels like you're in Rome, or you're in Barcelona, or one of these classic European cities. And this was the hotel I stayed in on the first night. And this is the Hotel Nicolas de Ovando. Is that right, Sabrina? I think it is. I think that's the name of the place. And
that's correct. Yeah.
And one of the aspects of Zona Colonia is there's a lot of these large old merchants' houses. This was a center not just for trade in Dominican Republic, this was a center for trade globally. So you ended up with these huge, like baronial, sort of Baroque mansions, which are now hotels. And that was the view. When I stepped out onto my balcony, jet lagged, the next morning, that was the view of this wonderful, almost looked like a Mediterranean plaza in front of me. And that was inside the hotel. And I couldn't resist taking a picture of this wonderful four-poster bed and sending it to my wife back in England, who was looking after the kids, saying that this is where I'm spending the night. You know, I felt like a duke. I felt like a baron. But that antiquity and that European feel and that sort of the cool plazas and the shady esplanades and things, it was really interesting to encounter that and to explore the history of the place a little bit more. And it's actually quite a confined space. Now, this is the hospital, and so this was the first hospital ever to be established in the Americas, you know, certainly in the New World of the Americas. And everything's quite a short walk away, really, and it's really worth exploring. The temptation is just to charge off into the highlands or charge off towards the beaches, but this city is a very, very special place, and the origins of so much that has spread throughout the Americas started here, and so it's well worth spending a bit of time exploring it. So the cathedral here was the first cathedral in the Americas, and that was built in 1514. And then, as I said, you've got the barracks, you've got Columbus Lighthouse, you've got really notable landmarks that are worthy of a visit. So do take a little bit of time just to explore around the Zona Colonia and the ancient part of the city. It doesn't take that long, actually. I was there a day and a half, and we got to see just about every part of it. So well worth it. But my favorite place while we were there, and this is something people often ask me what I miss from travel, you know, while we're in lockdown. And it's this sort of thing that I really miss. This is a glorious open plaza, a glorious open square. And what's it called, Sabrina? Sorry, I've forgotten again. Oh, don't worry.
It's called Plaza Colón.
Plaza Colón.
Plaza Colón.
Statue of Columbus in the middle, isn't it? Yes.
That's correct.
Yes, and one of the sort of recurring themes for me at plazas like this all around the world is the ability to sit and drink a cup of coffee and watch the world go by. And I know so many of you watching this are travelers, you're real travelers. Don't you miss that? I really miss it, to just take in another culture by osmosis, almost by just sitting there. And the coffee in Dominican Republic is a reason enough alone to visit the Dominican Republic. Because the coffee was introduced by the Spanish in the 17th century, and it's just been refined ever since. And, you know, it's one of the nicest cups of coffee I've ever had. And I just sat there, and the air was cool, and the leaves were rustling. And behind me was a cigar shop when that photo was taken. And because obviously there's tobacco grown there as well. So there was the whiff of the cigar smoke. There was a beautiful cup of coffee beside me. There was antiquity all around me. There were a couple of old geezers playing dominoes on the table in front of me, and I was like, this is travel. This is what travel's all about. I really miss experiences like that. So, as I said, do take a bit of time to do it. This glorious multicultural aspect is around you all the time. You think, oh yeah, that's American in origin, that's African in origin, that's European in origin. And even the music, merengue music, is a kind of fusion of so many different cultures. This joyous, upbeat music. It has a bit of Caribbean, a bit of African, a bit of European in it. It's a kind of melting pot, really, which is typified by the music, really. So I take my travel very seriously. I take my filmmaking very seriously. So I saw it was incumbent on me. It was my duty to try and visit every single coffee shop in the city and sample every cup of coffee. So I think I pretty much did. So the time swiftly emerged to explore a different aspect to that history. And this was in a place called Monte Cristi, which is on the north coast, nowhere too far away in the Dominican Republic. This was maybe a sort of 3-hour drive from Santo Domingo. And this was an extraordinary place. And again, if you're interested in history, if you're interested in the background of a place, and indeed the background of all the Americas, visit this place. And this was run by a guy called Robinson Jimenez. And it's an archaeological museum, basically. It's a kind of restoration place. And as you can see by the state of Robinson there, he was a big lad, and I think he'd retrieved a lot of the anchors personally from the shipwrecks and things. And he reckons that off the coast there are about 450 shipwrecks of real antiquity, and he's dived 10 of them, and he's to really survey them. So it's a treasure trove. You know, it's Captain Jack Sparrow, it's Pirates of the Caribbean, because a lot of battles were fought off this section of coastline, a lot of trade, a lot of very shallow reefs, a lot of storms, and you ended up with all of these extraordinary artifacts, which he's collected over the years. And of course, a shipwreck is a time capsule on the seabed. It's a haunted house that you can just open the door and you go into. And this isn't just a reflection of seafaring life, it's a reflection of life through the centuries. And also lots of different cultures. And the things he was showing me, there were things from China, there were things from Africa, from Europe, from all around the world, and spanning the centuries, just laid across this table. And as a filmmaker, I thought, wow, there's a real story here. You know, there's a really great story you could tell here. There's Robinson by one of the holding tanks, and you can see there's a huge anchor there of a giant Spanish galleon. You know, this would have been a serious warship. And Robinson is working with various institutions around the world to slowly bring this stuff to the surface. I think it's a really vivid reflection of the history of the islands themselves. And this is an interesting thing. Robinson got this out. You can see he's got a big smile on his face. He said, "You don't know what that is, do you?" And as a former Royal Marine, I pride myself in knowing what bits of ships are and things. I was like, "Oh, that's a bilge pump." And he laughed. He said, no, it's not a bilge pump. It's an enema pump. And the reason was that back in the day, when you're on these very long voyages, you're on the ship, the diet was very poor, water wasn't great. You had once a week, you had an enema. And he'd found an enema pump in one of the wrecks, and he was feeling very pleased with himself. He was so proud of it. It was like his best artifact. He saved the best till last to show me the enema pump. So, and as I was leaving, by the way, I saw this gym, and that was Robinson's gym. So, and trust me, those bits of concrete weren't small. They weren't small. Now, one of the things I enjoyed about the islands as a traveller there was there was a sort of pioneering spirit there. There was a community spirit and there was a pioneering spirit. And I thought it'd be lovely to actually dive one of the wrecks if I could. Now, this was just almost off the end of the runway in Santo Domingo. This was pretty much off the end of the runway. A little beach there, a little national park. 10% of the whole country is national parks, based on 29 separate sites. And this was one of them. And this guy is an absolute legend. This guy called Dennis Borin, Dennis. And we got in touch with him and said, look, can we do a little dive? And I'd love to see some of this stuff myself. And it was a really collective effort because Dennis was like, he's French. He was like, of course, no problem. All the best divers in the world are French, by the way, all the legends, they're all French. And he was like, of course, yeah, you must come. I'll come down to the beach. We'll find a boat. And we found this tiny little boat. It was like a rowing boat. And we jumped in and we went out, and off the end of the runway of the main airport, as we dived, we dropped in the water, and there was a massive cannon there from a galleon, you know, back in the mists of time. So when you fly in, you glance out the window, just think, I'm flying over the wreck of a Spanish galleon. You know, what a way to start your trip. And this was one of the other shipwrecks as well on that same dive. So history is all over the land, and it also litters the seabed there as well. Now, one of the other things we wanted to do was, in terms of the land-based stuff, was explore some of the mangrove swamps and some of the coastal regions there, which are really rich. And this was to the north, slightly to the north, and this was a trip through the mangroves. And the mangroves, don't tell me, Sabrina, because I've written it down. Okay, Sabrina, tell me, where are the mangroves?
In Los Haitises National Park.
That's it. That's it. Now, the lovely thing about these mangroves, it's a real network of channels and these shallow tributaries, which are crystal clear. And you've got things like dugongs, manatees there, and also really rich in wildlife, this particular area. But then you're out onto the coast. And you can do this as a day trip. So you go all the way along the coastline. You've got these wonderful buildings, these houses kind of tucked away. I remember seeing that, thinking, right, I want to live there. You know, that's a sort of dream house. But this particular beach gives you access to a cave system. Now, the islands, there's a lot of limestone in the islands, and over the years, cave systems have been formed. And these were really, really special for the indigenous people there. And this an amazing set of petroglyphs there called the Taino petroglyphs, which have real antiquity. You know, they're very, very old indeed. So you can go into these caves. And the film I'm about to show you, you'll see the petroglyphs. And they're quite sort of sacred sites. They feel special, you know, they feel like a cathedral, like you're in a cathedral. And the petroglyphs are stunning. And as I said, you'll see that in the film in a moment. But then you're back out onto the coast and exploring these little offshore islands. And one of the reasons these are special is they're bird colonies. And some really impressive bird species. You've got flamingos here. You've also got my favorite bird in the whole world, which is the frigate bird. And that previous slide I showed you, there are hundreds and hundreds of frigate birds. Frigate birds got the largest wingspan relative to their body size of any bird on Earth. They can fly at 100 miles an hour. They're airborne pirates and buccaneers and bandits, and they're always up to mischief. And there's a tornado of these huge birds over that particular island. So it's a really, really striking place. So final thing, just before I show you the Earth film, striking into the heart of the island itself. So everything I've shown you so far has been coastal. So we turned our back on the sea and we said, right, let's head into the heart of the island itself. And I'm sure you agree, as travelers, anywhere you go, it's nice to see the main ports and the main cities and the capitals and all that. It's nice to be in the good hotels there and all that, but it's great to head into the interior of an island and really see the smaller communities and these little villages, very brightly coloured. This looked classically Caribbean to me, really. But the other thing it gives you a chance to do is sample local produce. This is rich volcanic soil, and the produce there, the vegetables and fruit were stunning. It was this kaleidoscopic array of everything being larger than life. Watermelons this big and peppers that long. And you could tell it was really rich, fertile soil. And the gentleman who ran this particular vegetable store, we stopped and I bought a coconut and he locked the top off and I started drinking the milk out of it. And I glanced at him and something really struck me about him, that there condensed in one man was the history and heritage of these islands in his hair. I remember looking at his hair and thinking they're like twisted strands of DNA with every single ancestral gene in that hair. You know, there were Spanish, there was French, there was American, there was African, there was European, there was Caribbean, there was the whole heritage within this guy's hair. And I commented on his hair and he gave me a big smile, said, yeah, I'm very proud of my hair. He told me he was Diego Maradona. If you look at him, I said, what's your name? And he said, oh, I'm Diego Maradona. I've gone into hiding here because he looks a little bit like Diego Maradona. But just really struck me that was such a vivid representation, his hair, of this truly multicultural place. And that's pretty special nowadays, you know, and should be celebrated, somewhere that is truly multicultural. So without further ado, I will show you the first film, and this film's called Earth.
There is a place where secret channels lead to sacred caves, where you can leave the beaten track and find your own haven. Where true wilderness is only ever a step away. Where you can sit and watch the world go by. And ancient traditions meet centuries of heritage to create a vibrant culture. Where fresh meets al fresco. Where every track leads to a new experience. Where flying through islands isn't just for the birds. There is a place called the Dominican Republic.
There we go. So apologies if that jumped around a bit. As Lynn said, the link will be sent out for everyone to all the films, so you can watch them at your leisure, as it were. Now, Dennis hadn't quite finished with me yet. So what we're going to talk about now is air. And I'd rather sneakily put a dive in because we were breathing air. Hope that counts. But this was in a place called Laguna Dudu, and in here you've got wonderful caverns and caves. Now, you don't have to be a diver to appreciate this, because one of the things that struck me about Dominican Republic is a lovely place to take kids, great place to take your family, because these great big pools, these limestone sinkholes, crystal clear, had like diving boards over them and a little park next to them and all that, and loads of kids were jumping in and swimming around in them. But actually they lead to a honeycomb of caves that goes into the very heart of the island. And Dennis was really keen that I explore those caves, that he showed me his world. It's a very, very good spot for cave diving, and a lot of explorers come in here. Now that is the way a cave diver should look. Kind of rugsy-tugsy, draped in gear like a Christmas tree, staring the 1,000-yard stare, the jutting jaw. And that's the way I looked. Basically, I was there in a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. And Dennis was like, nah, you'll be fine, you know, just follow me. So, but it was all very safe, I hasten to add. And he took me cavern diving. So there was always the light. I could always see where I was. into this stunning world. If you're a qualified diver, then this experience was unparalleled. It was amazing. Diving into these crystal blue caverns that went into the heart of the island. And so in we went and explored, the very interior of the Dominican Republic. Now, I'm just going to show you a little clip about what happened as I surfaced from my cave dive. So I was now feeling like a rugsy-tugsy cave diver, like a proper explorer, like I'd pushed the limits of pioneering exploration. And as I surfaced, this is what greeted me. And it really struck me that is a classic manifestation of the friendliness and the spirit of the people of the islands. So I was filming as I came up, and this is what happened. There aren't many people who surface from their first ever cave dive and get a thunderous round of applause from everyone. So it was very nice, very nice. Now, this place is called Parisio Conahondo, and this is, again, in one of the nature reserves. And I've got two little girls, one age 6 and one age 8, and this would be paradise for them. Essentially, the way the building has been created, and it's been done very sympathetically with the landscape, is creating a series of waterfalls. They've just used the natural flow of a river that runs through the hotel and through the resort, creates these wonderful waterfalls. And my kids could stay there for years and never leave the resort, so it struck me as a really good place to take the kids. But one of the reasons it was so significant for us is we wanted to see one of the rarest birds on Earth, and that's the Hispaniola hawk. There's only about 80 to 100 pairs in the world, basically, and this is one of the few places you can see them. And that isn't a hawk. That was us when we turned up at the resort. I got attacked by a goose, and that's like the guard goose on the resort. It's a really random thing to step out of your minibus and be attacked by a furious goose. So there we are. That's the culprit. But this was the gentleman who was our guide. And again, one of the nice things I found while we were there is an awful lot of the guides were local people who'd been trained up and had a real passion for the environment. This guy was the most enthusiastic guide I think I've ever worked with. He lived in all his gear. He lived for the birds. He would not give up. And eventually, we found the Hispaniola hawk. So this is us. This is the team. The two lads of the film crew. And the guide in the middle there. We went out at dawn, we went out at dusk, and in the end, he got us a wonderful sighting of the Hispaniola hawk. So this is the Dominican treehouse, and this was right in the heart of the jungle. Everyone loves a treehouse. Doesn't matter if you're 5 or you're 105. Everyone loves staying in a treehouse. And with this experience, you are right in the heart of the jungle. You wake up to the crackling, hissing, seething noise of the jungle coming alive around you, and you go to bed to the same noise. You really feel like you're part of the ecosystem here. And they are genuine tree houses, and you get to the resort walking across this wonderful Indiana Jones rope bridge. You feel very, very intrepid. And one of the other reasons you feel intrepid is the way you get there is a zip line. And it's a zip line that has 13 different stages to it. You go 40 miles an hour on the zip line. At one point, you're 350 feet off the ground on the zip line. You'll see footage of it in a moment. So that is the way to arrive at a place. And as ever, the welcome was warm. It was a classic Dominican Republic welcome. And this was my first introduction to the famous Dominican Republic drink. Now, I don't want to get the pronunciation wrong, so I've written it down here. It's Mama Juana. Now, Mama Juana is 50% rum, 40% wine, and 10% honey. And it's supposed to be a powerful aphrodisiac. They say Mama Juana makes you wanna, apparently. But all it made me want to do is go to bed, because I'm of a certain age. But it's wonderful to arrive at 40 miles an hour, flying over the top of the canopy of the rainforest. You get to your treehouse, and waiting for you is someone there who pours you a mama juana, and say, right, welcome to the heart of the rainforest. Welcome to the green heart of the Dominican Republic, and the reason that this place is so special. So I think we're pretty much on to the next film now, and this one is Air. So here we go.
There is a place where you can drift with eagles and soar through treetops. Where generations of knowledge lead you to unique wildlife. And a single moment can last a lifetime. Where you can dive into the heart of the island. Where you can fly through the canopy to rest in the treetops. And the flames from the fire are as tall as the tales you'll tell. There is a place called the Dominican Republic.
Okay, so the final phase was filming water, was telling the story of water. And so obviously there's several facets to that. One of them is several rivers that run down from the mountains. So you create some really nice whitewater rafting activity. And it was kind of slightly the wrong time of the year while we were there. We were there the early part of the year, January. But nonetheless, there were some really impressive rapids that we saw en route, and obviously waterfalls as well. And this waterfall is called and again, I've written it down, so it's the Jarapucawa waterfall. But there were two really beautiful waterfalls, just a short walk really from where we were staying. So quite accessible. You've got these lovely pools you can take a dip in. And there's always something special, isn't there, about a waterfall in the Caribbean. And but of course, now at last we started off at the coast, and now we're going to finish at the coast as well. There's two beaches in particular in Dominican Republic that were voted by National Geographic in the top 10 beaches on Earth. And one of the things I particularly enjoyed about the beaches was how deserted they were, how easy it was to find a beach, to hire a local boat and get to a beach with very, very, very few people there. And even the ones that did have people there, they tended to be concentrated in one area. And these were long, long, long white beaches. So you could walk and find a secluded place, really fairly easily. And obviously the classic Caribbean reefs as well. There's about 300 species of coral and 700, 500, 600 species of fish off here as well. So in terms of that classic kind of Caribbean beach holiday, that's all there as well. And I thought that was a real bonus to all the stuff we saw in the interior. And as I said, the predominant theme for me was how easy it was to get off the beaten track, just find somewhere with no one on a beach and just have a little sort of alone time. And, that's a lovely thing. But of course, the famous thing, and we left this right till last, pretty much. This was in Samana, and was the humpbacks. Now, if you want to see a humpback whale, if you want to be 100% guaranteed to see a humpback whale, visit this location anytime from about December through to about March, April. There's estimated to be 4,000 humpbacks that come down to this part of the world and pass through this part of the world. It's a whale sanctuary. And what's happened is over many, many years, is the humpbacks have come down here to nurse their young, to mate and to court. They don't eat down here, actually. The female humpbacks will lose a huge amount of their body weight as they suckle their young because they feed much further north. But over the years, the humpbacks have got used to the boats kind of coming in. And what tends to happen is the boats sit and the humpbacks will come in, particularly with a young humpback. And we got really lucky in that we got a humpback calf to come in. Now, a humpback calf is still a pretty big animal. These are huge animals. They weigh 30 tons. The adults, they're those wonderful white flippers, which give them their name. That's their Latin name, Megaptera vangliae, which is the winged New Englander, because they were hunted from in the waters of New England, and the whale hunters called them the winged New Englander. So they're big animals, but the young ones are curious. They're very curious. So this calf came up to the boat again and again. We sat for maybe an hour and a half while this calf just came up to the boat. You can see in the background there, two shadows. Its mum was hanging around, just keeping an eye on the little one, making sure the little one's behaving. And we've all experienced that on holiday. And also there was a male, a large male. Now the large male wouldn't have been the dad, it would have been a male acting as the escort, essentially trying to be a bit of a smoothie, trying to do the right thing, be a knight in shining armor, to curry favor from the mum for obvious reasons. So we had this wonderful encounter with these three whales for a decent long time. And the operator we used called Kim Beddle, and Kim was almost a founder of the whale watching operation here. An American lady, very passionate, very knowledgeable, and very respectful of the animals we were encountering. So, you know, in that terms, it really lived up to expectation for us. So I think, without further ado, we're into the final film. So there we go. Yeah, that's the sight you don't forget, the sight of a humpback sounding. So here we go. Here's the final film.
There is a place where emerald jungles meet sapphire seas. And nature is a playground for the old and the young. Cascades and streams lead to mystery and magic. Where giants come to visit. Where you can lose yourself on a sweep of white sand, or party in a city that never sleeps. Where the people smile in 100 languages. There is a place called the Dominican Republic.
And I think that's my final sort of thoughts, and my final impression as I left the islands was the smile. You know, that everyone was sort of friendly and welcoming, and interested in who we were and what we were doing, and proud of their country and proud of their islands. So that was a wonderful sort of lingering impression, I think, of a special place. So there we are. That's it. That's me done, I think. So I shall turn you over to the true experts now.
Oh, Monty, thank you so much. Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Oh,
and,
yes, of course.
yes, and then because then we'll be able to get Sabrina up to join us. So, oh gosh, thank you so much, Monty. That was fantastic.
No worries, my pleasure.
I tell you what, Sabrina, I am definitely going. The only thing is, I was thinking, I must go this year, of course, as soon as flights start again. But I do want to see those whales. So it looks like I'm more likely to be going, next February or something?
January, February, March. So
Yeah.
that's the best time to see the whales. We can sometimes see them in December. We can sometimes see them in April. But if you want to be sure to see them, January, February, March.
Oh, fantastic. So Sabrina, you actually work for the Tourist Board. And you've been with them for quite a number of years now. Is it 2000, 2001, something like that? And
That's
of course,
correct.
you are from Dominican Republic, and I love your backdrop.
I'm from Santo Domingo. I was born on that street.
You were born on that street? Oh, gosh, it is so pretty. And it's clearly got a real Latin flavour to it as well. Yeah, more Latin America, perhaps, and Caribbean. Yeah.
We are we are Latin American Caribbean, home to merengue and bachata music. So exactly as you've just said.
Yeah. Oh, fun. So Monty, were you surprised by it? I mean, what did you know before you went? You said Sabrina had been saying to you for years to go, but did you have a preconception?
Me and Sabrina had been passing each other at dive shows for years, and she was like, "You've got to come to the Dominican Republic." I said, "No, I will." Yeah, strangely enough, sometimes it's really good. And again, I know the vast majority of everyone watching are travelers and nomads. That's the Wanderlust crowd, isn't it? And there's two different ways to travel, I think. One is to do a lot of research beforehand, and another way is to do very little. And oddly enough, we hadn't done that much research. And I say we, it was myself and Rich, the film crew, and Matt. We knew the locations we were going to. We roughly knew what we were going to see there, but we wanted it to be a really kind of proper travel experience and proper surprise ourselves around every turn. So I think it was the breadth of experiences that surprised me. And the fact, particularly, I'm no history buff, but you cannot fail to be impressed by the Zona Colonia and the impact that had on the wider Americas. It's amazing to see that history. It's really well preserved there. And then, like I said, to push into the heart of the island and realize, wow, that, we got all this and the white sands and blah, 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 that's all to come at the end,
Yeah.
So, I think I was surprised. I was surprised at the sheer diversity of things you can do there.
Mm. Oh, well, it looked, we've had so many fantastic messages coming up. People saying, wow, it looks amazing, going to add it to their bucket list. Definitely want to go. Somebody was just going, wow, wow, wow. It's just brilliant. And just to remind everybody, we'll be sending the links to those brilliant videos tomorrow as well, so that you can see them yourselves, because we know some people at least had technical problems there. But look terrific. So to bring us some very sort of common type questions were coming up, such as, we've said about when's the best time to see whales, but what about just best times to go generally? Are there any particular times to go or avoid, or depending what people are into?
Anytime it's good. Many people prefer to go between November and April when it's less humid. I tend to go in summer because I have school children, so that's when I can go. And I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm able to go for walks and do everything I like. So anytime it's good. But of course, if you want to see the whales, January, February, March, as we said. Monty mentioned the whitewater rafting in Jarabacoa. That's usually around May time, like when it gets up to level 4 rapids. So if it's for a specific interest, then, but in general, anytime it's good.
Okay, good. And how easy is it to actually travel around when you're there?
I have actually personally traveled around in the buses, and I've even, taken a lift in Sosua. I was looking for a hotel with my husband. None of the taxis knew the place, and a guy said, "Come, we'll take you," and he drove us there. So yeah, it's fine. There's a really good network of buses between most cities, and you'll be able to travel around easily. There's also good vehicles you can hire to drive you if you don't want to go in public transport.
Mm. And is it a good place to go with family? You say you yourself go in the school holidays, so.
I'm due to travel with my family, and my children were crying because our flight got canceled. Obviously, we all know what's going on in the world, and they were like, "Oh, Mom, will we get to go?" And definitely a wonderful place to go with children of any age.
Mm. And what about language? I believe Spanish is obviously the first language, but can people manage if they haven't got Spanish?
Very, very easily. So Dominican people are very friendly and will go out of the way to communicate with you. Plus, everyone knows a bit of English, and if they will communicate with you. Monty can tell you, definitely yes.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, my Spanish, we'd just come back from the Galapagos actually, from a long stint filming there. So I had a little bit of Spanish. But the moment I started speaking appalling Spanish, everyone just switched to English straight away. They were like, well, fair play, thank you for trying, but it's probably best to speak English. So, no worries on that front at all. And my Spanish is limited to hello, how are you? My name is Monty. And that was enough to raise a smile. And then everyone was like, right, okay, let's talk English. It's going to be a lot easier for all of us.
Sure.
Yeah, no worries with the language thing at all. And, occasionally we'd come across someone who didn't speak English. But again, everyone was friendly enough and open enough that you could always get the message across, no problem.
Okay, and I think it was a surprise looking at comments to a couple of people that it is next door to Haiti. Obviously, share the same island. Sabrina, is it possible to combine both? Would you be able to?
Definitely, yes. I have in the past, even I have traveled to the Dominican Republic with a colleague that used to work for Haiti, representing Haiti, and it's easy. There are buses that travel between the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and also if you want to arrange private transport, that's also possible. But 100% yes.
Yeah. A couple of people have asked about sailing. Of course, Monty, you're a sailor, aren't you? How did you find the sailing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not actually a sailor.
Okay.
I'm heavily into my boats.
Yes.
And what I will say is I couldn't comment on anchorages or marinas and all that, but understand it's better. Sabrina will tell you, I'm sure. But the thing I really loved in terms of taking to the water, and I'm sure you could explore, with a yacht or whatever, is the archipelago of little islands off the north. That looked lovely. Do you remember I showed you Bird Island? That's just one of many little islands, bays and coves that look really lovely, quite piratical, quite kind of wild and buccaneering, and little inlets and bays and things. So I think that would be a lovely experience if you're into your sailing.
Oh, terrific. Oh, that sounds really good. What about food? What's the food like? What can we expect? How did you find it, Monty, first?
Oh, yeah. I mean, lovely. We, and Sabrina is obviously the expert on this, but we found it's quite kind of fusion food in that classic, it's a reflection of where it is. It's a reflection of its significance as a location for trade and all that. So it's a real mixture of cultures within the food. And there's Sabrina, what was the name of that restaurant that was right up where we did the paragliding, just before we did the paragliding, the one that's right up in the
Camp David. I don't know. It's called Camp David. Yeah, I don't know why it's called that. Sorry about the name.
best food I've had in years. It wasn't cheap, mind. It was one of those restaurants. It was a lovely restaurant, but wow, that food was really something. So yeah, it's kind of fusion food, and yeah, very good. You know, and a good range, really good range as well. So I mean, Sabrina, I'm sure you've got a more sort of nuanced view about the food.
As you said, the Dominican food, it's a mix of different elements like Spanish, African, the indigenous, the Taino element. Plus, in more recent, like from the 20th century, all the Christian, Lebanese, Syrian that moved to the Americas. We have a big colony, a big Italian influence as well. So yeah, a mix of all of that, as you described it.
And an important point as well to pass on is because we were filming, we ate quite a lot of street food, what you describe as street food, because often we were eating on the run kind of thing. We were driving to the next location, try and film. And we had no stomach problems in the whole shoot. And, you know, that's great because we were genuinely, you know, we'd often have lunch that was literally street food, but just stop somewhere and there'd be someone serving at the side of the road. So that was good. You know, that was we didn't have any problems in terms of, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And we actually had a recommendation for a restaurant from somebody. They said Papa's Restaurant has the best langoustines in the world. Do you know that one, Sabrina?
I don't know that one. No. Yeah, no. I will write that down for next time.
Sabrina, what's your favourite dish? What do you miss when you're not there?
Oh, there's so many. I could go on forever, really. But I love the typical rice and beans, arroz y habichuela. My very, very favorite is the pescado frito de Boca Chica, which is fried fish with green plantains. It's wonderful. I love it. Looking forward to eating that next time I go to the Dominican.
You're going to have to stop talking because it's dinner time. And
I know, we're all getting hungry now.
Making myself hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, oh gosh, we'll speed up. Now, obviously, somebody made this comment, and I must admit that it would have been my misconception a few years ago that Dominican Republic seemed to have a reputation for having big resort hotels. I think that's the way we think of it. You know, we've seen that it has got that element of tourism. And so presumably, Sabrina, there's a hell of a lot more to that. Is that just one small area? And also, have you got any particular recommendations for character properties? Are they easy to find, character places to stay?
Very, very easy to find. As you mentioned, most of the big resorts are located in Punta Cana, which is like the very east of the Dominican Republic. The rest of it, it's all like smaller accommodation, eco-lodges, Paraíso Caño Hondo, that where Monty showed in one of his images. And so you're really spoiled for choice. In Santo Domingo, you have Casas del 16. There are 16th century houses from the colonial era. And it's small luxury hotels of the world. So really like, some of them have like 3 rooms. You can rent the whole place. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, definitely yes. I'm free to. So I know that we won't have like probably enough time to cover all the questions that I see on the Q&A. But I'm happy to, if people want to email me and ask me for different things, very happy to answer any questions.
Well, what I'm thinking, Sabrina, is so when we contact people tomorrow, for instance, with the links, well, we could obviously put an email address on, but we might maybe, because some people have been asking again for the names of places that Monty mentioned and so on. So maybe we could list some of those as well.
Great.
And,
great idea.
You know, yeah. I think we'd all
I can jump in for a second there, Lynn. We were just talking about like places to stay and things. You know, you always, whenever you leave a place, you always have a favorite, don't you? When you leave, you're always like, oh yeah, there's one that. And for me, it was the treehouse, the Dominican treehouse.
They look amazing, yeah.
That was magical. And, you know, Sabrina helped us out with the logistics of all this, of course. And Meanie, she only gave us 1 night in the treehouse. Should have given us 10 nights there. Everywhere we stayed was nice and different, and all had their own character. And
we'll take you back.
Yeah. What was the name of the lovely place on the beach, Sabrina? The like old Spanish colonial house place.
And that was in Samaná. Todo Blanco.
Yes, that was lovely. So if anyone watching wants it was a big like old house right on the beach. Really well set up. Food was fantastic. People were lovely. But if you want that authentic sort of jungle experience with a cappuccino never more than 50 yards away and a warmed muffin available, it was a kind of mixture of the two, because you were right in the heart of the environment, but you were looked after really well. I think the Dominican Treehouse place for me, that was kind of.
Right. I'm planning next February already. I've got this in my head now. I'm making my own list now of recommendations where I'm going to go. One or two people have asked about safety, and is it a safe destination? Are there issues there that people should know about?
I get asked this very, very often when I'm at trade shows, and I always say, don't do anything there that you wouldn't do here. Sometimes when people travel, they get like a sense of, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and do whatever. In general, whenever I travel, I don't flash valuables, I don't mix with wrong people or illegal drugs, any of that kind of thing. If you stay out of that, you should be absolutely fine. Yeah. And I always point at the FCO website that says that the vast majority of visits to the Dominican Republic are trouble-free. In urban areas, we have the same like everywhere. We have pickpockets. We have the eventual bag snatching. Santo Domingo, it's a 3 million inhabitant city. The old city, this is where I am right now.
Yeah.
You can walk everywhere safely, happily. No one, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's very, very safe.
So basically, it's just use your common sense like you would anywhere.
Use
like
your common
you're
sense.
in London, Birmingham, Glasgow, whatever, or anywhere. Yeah. Do you need a visa?
No, just a valid UK passport, and it needs to be valid for the amount of time that you're staying there.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And a lot of people are just looking for lots of recommendations, really, places to stay, places to drink. What are the names of the two beaches that are in the National Geographic Top 10? Do you remember, Sabrina, what the names of which two beaches are the ones that are particularly praised?
In the Dominican Republic, we have Bahía de las Águilas. That's in the south west of the Dominican Republic, very, very southwest. And we also Playa Rincón, where Monty went. It's in the video. Playa Rincón that you usually get to by boat. But they're not the only ones. We have so many beautiful beaches with no one in them.
Yeah. Oh, incredible.
That's I think a really important point. The Playa de Rincón, the one you mentioned there. Yeah. Stunning. You've got this big like plateau, this wonderful cliffs that lead down to these palm trees, and at the bottom of it, you've got this sugar white sand beach. Stunning because of the cliffs, and it's like something out of Moana. It just looks amazing. But because it's such a famous beach, that was one of the ones that there weren't a lot of people on it, but there were a few people. There's a bit going on it. And actually, Sabrina's absolutely right. We hired a boat. We said to the guy, "Can you take us to another one?" And he sort of, because we hung out on there for a while, and it was very nice. And we said, "Oh, can we explore a bit more?"
Yeah.
And he took us to this other beach, and there's no one on it. It's just deserted, totally deserted. And we hung out on there for a while. So Sabrina's right that there are classic, quite iconic beaches there, but there's a lot of really beautiful beaches with no one on them. So.
Yeah. Oh, fabulous. Is it a good walking destination? Obviously, a lot of us are into walking, hiking.
Definitely, depending on the time of year. you don't want to melt. I mean, some people, it depends on what you're used to as well, but there are a lot of trails. So if you go onto the specialist apps like Wikiloc or that other one that is more popular with different trails, yes, it's a great destination for walking and for cycling as well.
And cycling, good. Horse riding?
Horse riding, definitely.
Oh, can't wait. Oh, gosh. Well, I think we really are going to wind up now, sadly. We are out of time. But Monty, presumably you would go again.
Yeah, and the thing I'd love to go again, I'd love to take my kids. You know, I think as a family, you know, me, Tam, Isla Molly, I think we'd really enjoy it out there. And that maybe the two places I go is the, is it the Parisio Cano Hondo? That it'd just be magic for the kids. That's the one with all the waterfalls and everything. And the treehouse one, without a doubt. And probably the one you mentioned on the beach there, the big old Spanish house one. That'd be us done. That'd be fine. You know, so, yeah, I would go again. But I'd take the family this time for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, well, I think we might as well leave it there. I think we are all so inspired. That was incredible. So to remind everybody, we will be dropping you a line tomorrow, and we'll have in it the links to the videos, we'll have contact details for Sabrina, and we will list some of the names that were mentioned tonight, some of those recommendations that came up. And we've also recorded tonight's presentation, so you will be able to go on as well and see the whole presentation, and that will be up on the Wanderlust website. So thank you so much. Thank you, Sabrina, for your amazing knowledge. I'm so pleased that you managed to persuade Monty to go out there, because what a brilliant job he's done, and he's really inspired us all tonight to visit. And Monty, thank you so much as well. That was
my pleasure.
Yeah, really, really good.
I'll head out into the rain now.
Yeah, back out into the rain. Thank you all to everybody who tuned in tonight. It was lovely to have you all. We had people from all around the country and also from around the world, from Canada, Germany, all sorts of places. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.